is huge. If you're not texting, you got to be. And if you're not texting because you're afraid of regulatory things, you got to get over that and just learn the rules. So let's talk about that for a second, because the folks that I work with that are texting are generating sometimes. Well, I've helped people 3 or 4x their conversion rates and their deal flow in frandev just by implementing effective automations and texting. So like, I know it works, and if you're not doing it right, then let's talk about it. You just have to have compliant opt-ins. This is a key thing for texting. We'll talk about the rest of it in a second, but if you're doing things like short codes, a lot of attorneys get this wrong, but if you're doing short codes, like where somebody texts you to opt in for information about your brand, there's actually a lot more you have to do. It's called the double opt-in process. Almost 100% of you are not doing that. So I want to talk about the web opt-in, or what they call a digital opt-in process. That's when you've got a web form and they're filling it out, and you have to have that compliant message on the bottom that says, by submitting this form, I agree to blah, blah, blah. We'll talk about the blah, blah, blah in a second. But remember, to be compliant with texting, you have to protect the consumer by having a clear opt-in process on your website. It legally doesn't require a checkbox, by the way, but it has to be clear and in their face before they hit submit. So we'll talk about that in a sec. You also have to manage your opt-out process. This is where things like having third-party snap-on tools into CRMs is a little bit messy, because there are 2 different databases you got to try to make sure you're keeping in sync. So you got to make sure your opt-out requirements are managed properly and that you systematize your compliance.